Good morning, everyone. Thank y'all for coming. It's Friday, June 10th, 2022 at 10 a.m. It's a morning meeting, discussion meeting. Thank you all for being here. I'd like to ask everyone to please silence your phones, your PDAs, or whatever you have. So when we get started, I'll do mine too. That'd be a good idea, huh? I'd like to ask Mr. Butcher to say the pledge for us. Joe, would you mind saying the prayer? Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank the Lord's Prayer.
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen.
Thank you, gentlemen. We have some green cards over here on the left. Those of you that would like to come up to the mic and speak to us, please fill a card out. Everything's important, so if you got some discussion that you want, please fill that out. Thank you. You can't, Jeffrey. Okay, we're going to move on. We've said pledge. We have a recognition of Jaden Nunez's accomplishments for high school rodeo. Is Jaden here?
I don't see him here.
I think we got the days mixed up. They said they come Monday, thinking the jury meeting was Monday.
It's okay.
I think we just still recognize them.
Well, yes, somebody needs to recognize him.
Well, you ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Jaden's in my district. He's an outstanding little fella. Jaden has been recognized on this 10th day of June 2022 by the Cameron Parish Police Jury for outstanding performance in the Louisiana High School Rodeo Association. Ms. Steph, is he the only one that we have left at South Cameron that's rodeoing, or we have more than?
At South Cameron, but Hackberry also has Ike Litt. He's
And one in Hackberry?
national qualifier as well.
Okay.
From Hackberry.
We used to have a bunch of rodeo people back in the day, but I think.
Those are the ones who qualify.
Qualified? Okay. Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you. And thank you, Jaden. I know he's not here. They get like Thomas said, days mixed up, so we're recognizing Jaden Nunez. Thank you.
You still need to get a picture of him one day.
Yeah, get him to come back.
Get him to come back. Thank you. And you know, all the local kids that perform, and they need recognition, and especially those that excel in these sports events and others. Y'all, please recognize them as they come about, okay? Thank you. Miss Amy Miller, Chenier, and Garrett Stein Home in the Yard.
Good morning.
Hey, Amy.
I'm here on behalf of Chenier Energy and partnering with Mr. Garrett Stein of Stein Lumber Company, and we wanted to officially donate a $10,000 donation to the Cameron Parish Revitalization Group. This donation is going to be utilized for small businesses incentive gift cards to Stein Lumber Company. And although industry is representing a progress and economic boom for the parish, we have not forgotten that it's our small businesses that bring life to this parish. And we're honored to be a small part of helping them rebuild and come back to Cameron and all of Cameron Parish. We do have a check, and we would love to do a picture check presentation with you guys. We're happy to wait until the end of the meeting or whatever is convenient, but we would love to get a check representation with our members of the CPR group that are here, as well as our jurors.
Okay, Mary says now, so.
Okay. Sorry.
And on behalf of Ashley Keller Buller, who is the chairman of CPR Go, which is Cameron Parish Revitalization Go, and Robin Morales, the vice chair, who's with us today, we certainly thank both Amy Miller and Chenier, as well as Garrett Stein and Stein Home and Lumber. So Stein has partnered with us for the residential round, and we're happy that they were willing to partner with Chenier's very generous donation on this business round that's going to assist. We'll be providing $500 gift cards to those businesses who are licensed, who have an occupational license in Cameron Parish, and who had a brick and mortar structure, like a business that serviced our communities before Hurricanes Laura and Delta, and have since repaired and or open again as brick and mortar businesses with sales and services. So we thank both of these very much for their contributions to this, what is an ongoing long-term recovery project.
Okay. Okay, everyone, just to excuse us just for a couple minutes
Can y'all get grouped together behind them?
so we can break Jeffrey's camera.
Anyone else?
Real close together.
Everyone on this side. Mr. Garrett's walking in, he's part of them. This is CPR. You know, I do it like I used to do the prom poses, and then the school. So come up a little bit more. Okay.
Hands up, everyone. Put your hands down by your side, please. And give me a good smile. On three. 1, 2, 3. One more time. 1, 2, 3. Smile. Thank you.
Wait. We gotta get one before the CPR gonna pitch. All right, 3, 2, 1. Whoa, no, that's and 3, 2, 1. All right.
Thank you. We're not responsible for your phones either. I'm sorry. Thank you very much, everyone. One thing we look forward to every once in a while, Mr. Irvin, employee group medical insurance renewal. It's like it was yesterday, Mr. Irvin.
That's what I just told you.
Well, you're right. The renewal is coming up 9/1, September 1st. It doesn't seem like it's been almost a year already, but here it is. You do have a rate increase of 7.8% on the Blue Cross. The good news, of course, is nothing changes on the dental and the vision and all the ancillary products. They all have a rate pass on that. But the Blue Cross rate will be changing 9/1. We are going out for bids to see where we stand as far as the premium increase, see if we can get some quotes from other companies. We don't have those yet. We should get those somewhere around the first part of July, and we'll let you know on the next meeting where we stand as far as those comparisons are concerned. At this time, I also want to make an announcement, I guess you could say, is that I'm going to be retiring at the end of June, and I want to just thank you for the 11 or 12 years that you've trusted me as being your insurance agent. It was an honor working for you, and I do appreciate your business.
I don't think we can allow that.
Well, you're in good hands because John Gregory in our agency is going to be the agent. Actually, John and his brother, Rich Gregory, so you get two agents for the price of one, but they're going to be taking over as of July 1, and they do an excellent job. They've been in business together for many, many years. Their dad before them, Dick Gregory, and you're probably familiar with the business. We all office together with Mudd and Brookhouse on College Street in Lake Charles. But I'm always available. If you ever need to complain about something about those guys, let me know. But I just wanted to thank you for your business and thank you for your service.
You got to know that I don't complain, but some of these guys might. So, thank you, Mr. Irvin.
Thanks, Mr. Irvin.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
All right, item 6, Mr. Josh Kozinski, Angle Bay subdivision. Those of you that are here from Angle Bay, don't stand up, just raise your hand, please. Thank you. How you doing, Josh?
Good morning, how are you?
Good.
Okay, first of all, I just want to thank y'all for allowing us to be here. We appreciate that, appreciate being heard. We've already introduced our neighbors. We've got people that are full-time residents as well as folks that have a second home here in Hackberry. And myself, I've had a lot and a home in Hackberry in Angler Bay subdivision since 2012. And we live there full-time. My wife's a school teacher, and my son's in 10th grade coming up through the school system. And currently, well, let's stop here. Our purpose today, as far as our request, is we're requesting that the parish take over our roads and begin to maintain them. And in Angler Bay subdivision, we have over 50 lots. And of those lots, we have 36 finished homes. And we also have 7 building permits right now. So we're a thriving community. We consider ourselves a part of the community. We're a big neighborhood, and we are also the largest tax base for Hackberry. There's not another neighborhood that represents more of a tax base than we do. And prior to today, during Hurricane Ike and Rita, we had a big flooding event, and the roads got deteriorated really bad. And in that deterioration, everything fell apart, and so we started maintaining them ourselves. And all these people donate $400 a year. I bought a tractor. I do the maintenance, and we do the best job we can do. You know, it's not great, but we're proud of it. And we all contribute, and that's a fantastic thing. And you know, currently we get garbage service, and we have our police patrol, and we also have mosquito spraying. But what we'd like to have public transportation for our children who go to school. We'd love to have a mailbox. We can't have those things because we're not a public road. And so, you know, hopefully we can get past that. As you enter our subdivision, we were talking about it this morning, it looks like an oil field road. And once you pass through that oil field road, we call it, because it's just a gravel road that's maintained with a small tractor, you open it up into a beautiful subdivision. And all these people here, they maintain their lots, they take care of their homes. Our subdivision is almost 100% completed from the hurricane. There's nothing there that looks trashy. Everybody's done a fantastic job. And we just feel like, as residents, over the past 20 years, everybody's been paying taxes, everybody's contributed, and we all understand the past problems. But we feel like we've paid our dues. And we'd like to request today that, you know, we get some help from the parish. I just want to thank y'all again and thank all the residents who have showed up today.
Okay. You have something, Kate?
I was just gonna ask, are you asking for the parish to take over the road as it currently stands, or are you wanting to bring it up into the minimum requirements and then us take it over?
Well, we've been here before, and we've contributed to the base, and the engineer has supposedly visited, and we feel like we've brought our roads up way more than over the past 10 years. you know, we've done all we can do. And so we're asking the parish to move from here.
Okay.
Well, okay, just to let you know, I had Gary, Shane, the drainage board, the water board, everybody has been out there to inspect it. And as Josh has alluded to, they have done a lot of improvement on these roads. And talking with Shane and Gary and the other people, the other entities, that road is listening to Josh, it kind of scared me because he said the roads, it kind of sounded like the roads are in bad shape. They're not. They're not at all. Those roads are in pretty good shape. They have approximately, I'm gonna say 60 to 70% of the roads there are actually paved or cemented. There's some gravel or rock road that starts in the beginning and goes down and kind of through the subdivision. But if you go to the subdivision and you look at it, it's, and this is not my area, this is Sonny's, but it's extremely beautiful. So they take very good care of what they've got, and some of these homes are, they're big. They're actually very, very big. So, and I'm asking the jury, as a juror, to accept it. And like I said, Shane and Gary and them went out there and looked at it. If y'all want to, y'all got anything to say about it?
What have we done in the past for subdivisions that kind of like this thing through the years back? You know, when they come in and ask, what was our standard policy for doing things?
Saw, cement, and blacktop.
Saw, cement, and blacktop before we would accept it.
Accept it, yes, sir. Yep.
Are y'all saw, cement, and blacktop over there?
I don't know. I honestly don't know what was done. There's a lot of blacktop. It possibly was soil cemented. I don't have any idea.
Is there a way, Gary, that we can see if it's saw, cemented?
We can have a geotech go and test the road in certain areas, the asphalt sections, concrete sections, even the rock sections, and have them find out what the depth of the base is. An aggregate base of 8.5 inches is equal to an 8.5 inch soil cement base, so it would be an acceptable base, but it still wouldn't be blacktop, so it wouldn't meet current codes. But other than that, we can still see what the other sections do and how they relate to the current ordinances.
Okay. See, I thought they had already gone out, assessed it.
They did.
They did.
They did, yeah. We didn't. They actually paid an engineer out of, I think, Westlake. That came out and looked at the roads. I don't know exactly what he did. I know he came out because they called me and told me that he was doing it. But like Gary said, we always get somebody out there and look at it.
What do we require on side drains, cross drains, and cul-de-sacs for school buses to turn around?
Be a 35-foot outside turn radius for a cul-de-sac, asphalt, or some type of T turnaround for the school buses, fire trucks to be able to go in and turn around. What was the other question, Mr. Booth? What would you need? For
Side drains, cross drains.
We would, we were talking to Mr. Curtis the other day about it. We're gonna go in and look at the current drainage on the road. Right now, talking with gravity and drainage there, the roads are draining fairly well. It's moving water off the properties. We just wanna make sure that all of your driveway culverts and stuff, there's not one or two out of line that's gonna hold water in sections. It'd be part of a road design, and we said we could assist with that.
This is the only problem I have with it. We have some people in Kaplan, on this side of Kaplan and Klondike, that call the same situation. They want to put it, they had an old subdivision and the road never was maintained. They want to start selling lots in. Well, they want us to do the road, and I told them the same thing. So if we allow, I know these people, I know the place, I mean, it's not, they spend a lot of money out there, but if we allow this to happen, what's gonna happen in Klondike and the next one?
See, I have one in my area, the same thing. They'd want us to take it over.
Yeah.
And I told them it would have to meet parish specs before we take it.
Well, same thing I told the guy, but,
Have you considered, though, that we've been working on this for 20 years almost? And that we already have our lots sold,
This
and our
the
homes
deal.
built?
I build subdivisions, okay?
I understand.
And in Lake Charles, when I built, you have to do it right the first time.
Yes,
That
sir.
subdivision never was done right. The
That's
man
correct.
didn't wanna do it. He said, we'll maintain our own road. And they built the subdivision. Y'all bought lots and built in there knowing that. You know, so it's not the parish's job to go spend a bunch of money on a really nice subdivision, don't get me wrong, and not do it for the next person, you know. So we have to stay consistent with this. And I think the last meeting we had with y'all was gonna consider getting it to specs and then we take it over. Part of it is concreted, so how much of it how far do we need to take over? I mean, repair, to get it to asphalt or concrete?
Probably
how long
about
is it?
a total of about a third of it,
How long is that, a quarter mile or what?
probably so,
About a quarter mile.
closer to a half, probably.
The entrance road, there's about 4,800 linear feet of roadway throughout the entire Angular Bay and Bonton Bay subdivisions.
Mhm.
And so you're looking at cul-de-sacs need to be installed, make sure everything meets current code.
And the width is gonna be all right for as getting into.
The main
getting
entrance road,
nice
like he says, isn't buried too well. They've done a lot of rock patches. So there's a lot of maintenance that needs to be done to the entrance road to the subdivision.
Right.
And then the back section is still rock. We didn't really look in detail at the condition of all the other roads. But overall, they're graded and, they have some dips and dives, which tends to happen when you're moving rock.
What I'm getting at,
Go ahead.
what is the standard, like when y'all bought the lots, did they have a road right of way?
Yes, sir, we all have a right-of-way through the subdivision, and our right-of-way is 60 feet wide.
Okay, that's what
so
I was
it's
worried about.
sufficient enough to,
I didn't wanna get on people's private property
Correct.
and then have to go through all that.
And so the drainage board did come out, and the drainage board, we had some flooding issues, and they came out, they dug our ditches, they installed culverts across the road, and they also elevated the roads in those certain areas. So we've had some help, and so we've eliminated the flooding, and now we're just, after almost 20 years of paying taxes.
We're not supposed to go on private roads, that's the problem.
Yeah.
Mr. President, didn't we, at the last time that they spoke, didn't we come up with a deal where they were gonna do a cost share?
Yes. Or something like that, or they was gonna get the
Yeah.
road back up.
I thought he was gonna get the road
Now-
back up.
I know it was a cost share, and that's some more discussion that we're gonna have to have, but like I said, they did agree to a cost share at one time. They did get an engineer out there, Mr. Soba, Don, that, had called that engineer out there, and I don't remember what the outcome of that was. I know it was good according to that engineer.
Right.
And that's some of the information that's gonna have to be collected. And,
That's one of the issues we have here, though, is that because we don't have a zoning in this parish, whenever a developer comes in, he wants to jack the people around, which is basically what happened here, because they short-sighted the water line when they put it in the first place, didn't have no fire protection. Sold these people a bill of goods and then left. And without zoning, we have to come up with some way to control this type of thing, to keep from
But
happening
the
again.
permitting now on has to be to where they have to meet criteria, they don't get the permit to start with, that's how it is Lake Charles.
Yeah, well, but we have to do that. We haven't done as good a job as we can. And I think these people, I want to say, they've been here since Rita. Since right after Rita, we were having issues with that road. And we've been out there, I don't know how many times looking at it. And I thought the last time they came, and then we came up with this cost share deal, kind of gave us a little leeway, gave them a little leeway to get this done. I just want to know what happened. Where are we with that?
well, I don't think we carried through. And I think,
We asked them to do that, but I don't think they ever got back to
Yeah.
us saying they were
Well,
going to do it.
and at the prior meeting, they said they were gonna bring the engineer out. And they said the first step was they were gonna adopt maintenance. And they would begin to maintain a gravel road, maybe help us with some dust control. And then at some point, as we move forward with the parish helping us out with maintenance, we'd work towards getting it paved. But, you know, we're just looking for a place to start.
Yeah. Curtis, if you don't mind. That's been going on for 20 years. That road ought to be pretty packed. If y'all been
It
putting
is.
limestone
It's
on that
very
thing
packed. As a matter of fact, they've been contributing $400 a year. Prior to a lot of these people even purchasing homes, we had another guy that's kind of doing what I do, working on the roads. People contributed back then. We've put hundreds and hundreds of tons of base material. I mean, every time we need anything, the neighbors step up. And so we have built and built and
They have a
built.
pretty good foundation.
We've got a
Yeah.
fantastic
It's
foundation.
a great foundation, and I'm just speaking because when I make my rounds,
Right.
I spend a lot of time out there, so.
I know it'd be open up a deal with other parts of the parish, but, I don't see why we don't get a cost estimate on what it would cost to surface it, just to see. And we could be done to at least I know they're paying a lot of taxes out there.
Rough estimate on it right now would be close to $1 million. To get the roads up to where resurface, and make sure it's up to order.
That's asphalt now?
That's a rough, sit on my desk 10 minutes estimate. That's not everything built into it.
That's, with the foundation the way it is and not coming in there and trying to till
That's
up
going
and,
in, that's just going in, and if we were gonna overlay a project,
like it is.
more or less, you're looking at about $130 a linear foot. Now, that's estimated on the entire 4,800 linear feet.
How many taxes,
if
how much
it's already-
tax?
Yeah, but you don't have
Concrete, we shouldn't have
4,800 linear feet.
No.
No, but they've got some patching and stuff that needs to be done on the entrance road. And that road probably needs to be overlaid in sections.
If you don't mind, Curtis. Mr. Scotty, you know about how much taxes that little community's paying right now a year?
They're at.
Mr. Scotty's our tax assessor. If you don't mind, I'm just curious about what that $1 million versus what kind of taxes this community.
Their
pays.
subdivision, I'm Scott Laverne, Cameron Parish Assessor. Their subdivision, they pay around $100,000 to $120,000 a year in taxes. Whenever they're at full value. Right now, they're at a depreciated value due to the storms. However, we're coming back up with our values, and so these people will be paying. They pay big bucks for their to have their camps and to have their houses there.
And listen, I understand that, but you can't go by that. Hell, we got people that got paid big taxes, so we're gonna go blacktop their roads and do things for them too?
No, I know,
Just because they
Joe.
pay taxes? I mean, we gotta figure something to help them, but I mean.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the answer is, if it's.
Thank you, Mr. Scotty.
To do something to help these people, but I mean, I know they pay taxes, and everybody pays taxes, where I live at up there, we all pay taxes, and I got some hefty payers that pay just as much. My neighbor right up the road most probably pays that much every year in his little business he got going on, so, I don't agree to go blacktop his stuff.
We're gonna run into, there's places in Cameron that shell too, these little trailer parks in the back of, going through like Aquashan and back there. And that's gonna be the same thing, we want us to maintain that,
Well,
I don't know what the answer is, to do something to
I
help.
mean, they would have to get a price on bringing it up to code. Like, I'm okay with where it's, concreted and asphalted, the shell areas, if they would bring that up to code, and then we can maintain it after that. And if it ever need to be blacktop, we'd just, we could do the whole thing, but, I guess you could probably work up the footage about what it would cost to bring it up to
I
code.
could go look at the entire subdivision.
Right.
and
But
get-
I'm
and
not
get
saying
that-
the
and get that
asphalt
number.
part and the cemented part right now, but the shell part, see what that cost would be, so these people would know about what it would cost to bring it up to code. And if they are, when I did my subdivision, the soil cement was as much as the asphalt. So if you already got the asphalt done, we did a mile up there, and it was, let me think, it was $250, I think, it was $250,000. But that was soil cement and asphalt. But half of it was 100-something was soil cement. So, I mean, if you just got a quarter of a mile, what y'all spend on limestone in a few years, you could almost pay for that piece to be asphalted, if you ain't got a soil cement. And another thing, how wide is the shells? Is it wide enough for the road? Is it 20 foot that you're maintaining?
Yes, sir.
You think is that wide?
Oh, yeah. or
So
why?
it might not be as bad as you're thinking to bring it up to code to where we could take over the whole thing then. Because if you already got it concreted, I don't know why we can't take over that part,
Well,
you know?
that's what I wanted to say. He's saying 4,800, okay? Most of that is already asphalted, most of it's cement,
Well,
and the rest of it's asphalt.
take that.
And as far as that's concerned, I mean, you know, if
That way
they
we
just
ain't
wanted to
getting in
go,
trouble with everybody
if
else.
they just wanted to go a certain distance, you know, and take care of that part, that way that would take care of the major part of the subdivision itself.
It would reach the codes and standards where we can maintain after that, you know?
Mr. Chairman,
So
Yes,
you
sir.
can't maintain a gravel road or help us out with maintenance? I mean, like we
You
said.
wanna leave it gravel?
Well, for the time being, we don't have a choice.
I want to get back to the
Go ahead.
joint venture that we were talking about. If we do that and we come up with a cost share plan, we just need to be agreement on the cost. What cost would we have? What cost would they have? If they've done over half the road already, then they've met their obligation if we have a cost share. And if we want to use that as a policy to go forward, I don't have a problem with that. We got roads that we're going to have to maintain at some point in time. And hopefully our revenues will come up and we'll be able to get most of this done.
Mr. Booster's got areas, other people's got areas
Yeah.
that we need to look at. These are our people. These people pay taxes.
That's right.
I mean,
I wanna help.
Yep.
I
don't wanna get
understand.
myself in a pickle to
I-
where we gotta do
Right.
everybody.
Everybody, that's right.
I do understand.
I mean, I got a road, right there by my house it stays underwater. I mean, they keep patching with limestone and everything. It needs to be lifted and fixed, but we don't have the money.
Does it have 36 $500,000 houses
No,
that are paying taxes?
no. But I mean, it is a road that's already adopted by us that we have to maintain by law.
Right.
And it's terrible, you know, and we don't have the money to asphalt that. So, I mean, we just gotta watch what we do, guys.
Well, we just- we
What
need-
we do for one, we gotta do for all.
We need to look at the percentage, Josh, and the residents in that area. What percentage that really needs to be taken over right now?
That's what I'm talking about.
We need help on about 25% of that
Okay.
road. You know, that would be a rough estimate because we've got 3 long streets that are concrete. We've got sections of streets that are in great condition with asphalt. And the part we need is probably roughly 1/4 of that 4,800 that we need help with.
1,000 people.
I think so. That's my guess. It's my estimate. I'm not pushing this just because of that, but I'm pushing this because these are our residents. These people have chosen to build here. They have chosen to pay the taxes that they pay. I know I keep saying taxes, but that's a big issue. I mean, that's a big issue. And if we have other places, we need to look at it. And as we can do it, we need to do it. Mr. Butcher's got some. Y'all, I know y'all have some. And we need to look at it, all of them, not just one. So that's what I have to say. So, all right, Josh. There's not gonna be no decision made today. We're not gonna bring that to no vote today. But, we'll be talking again and trying to come to some solution to be able to,
Let's do something to where we have it next meeting.
Yes.
You know, they've been working on this long, we need to give them a decision one way or
Yeah.
another by next meeting.
Well, is Gary gonna go out there and do what he's gotta do and come back with?
Footage and.
if you get, Gary, if you'll get with Josh is, he, like you said, he maintains that road. So he's out there, he's either putting water on it or he's grading it or something. So if you'll get with him and y'all get out there and make a decision, and I know, Josh, you'll be talking to the rest of the residents to try to get an area that you feel would be to the best interest of the subdivision. That way it would give you your school board, your bus routes, stuff like that, you know, so.
Okay, well, thank you so much for your time.
We'll get you a decision one way or another next month, at the next meeting.
Yes, sir.
Thank y'all.
Thank y'all.
Thank you very much. Hey, we're not really arguing up here. Everybody's just trying to make a decision. So. Okay, let's see. All right, I hope y'all ready for this. Mr. Boreal?
Can I see my timer?
Yeah, look what he did to the pond.
Thank y'all for coming to see us.
Thank y'all.
You can go get
Give
some
everybody a
coffee
little
so
more
we
time
don't,
to get the hell out of Dodge before I start.
Yes, before you start.
get us some coffee so we don't go to sleep.
Anybody needs a bathroom break, get you a bottle of water, some coffee or something. No, thank you, gentlemen, for allowing me to come and do as we've done in previous years and give a little post-session update. Session ended this past Monday, about 5:30, and I think that what you'll see is we had a little bit of progress for Cameron Parish throughout the session. If you don't mind, what I'll do is hit a few highlights, and then I'll open it up for questions and whatever you have. What I've tried to do is I've attempted to identify, 4 or 5 major bills that were put through the process, and then we'll touch on projects and funding last, because I know that's going to be very important to everybody on the jury. First of all, I want to start with one bill that was important to me. I filed a LIGA insurance bill that was HB 881. This bill dealt specifically with homeowners who were on Citizens Insurance, and between 2018 and the hurricane, were moved to a third-party carrier involuntarily. Okay, the department, the insurance commissioner, moved homeowners from Citizens to a third-party carrier. Not long after Laura, many of these companies, I think initially it was 3, now it's more, of those carriers filed for lack of the good insurance terminology, bankruptcy. Okay, those homeowners were transitioned to a group called LIGA, which is basically the Insurance Guarantee Association for the state. They are last resort, they're quasi-governmental, and without getting into the details, they're supposed to help people get through their worst possible time, okay? The issue that we've had in this parish was that many of those homeowners had a delay in response on their claim. Not just Citizens and LIGA insurance claims, but in general. So on the private insurance side, you have timelines and penalties in state law already to help you, to protect you. For the Citizens claims that went to LIGA, there was no protection afforded to the homeowners. So the bill did 2 things. The bill gave LIGA 120 days after proof of loss to pay the people. That's after everything was settled. That's after everything was negotiated. You got the appraisal award. Everything's done. You have 120 days to cut a check. That was number 1. Number 2 was if LIGA didn't pay you in that 120-day time frame, you were due up to 20% of your settlement. You've waited this long. You deserve something a little bit above your claim. That bill was heard in insurance committee, and as you could about imagine, we had some opposition from insurance companies, from the commissioner himself, members of the committee, and that bill died 4-8 in committee. I thought that since Laura and Delta, I did not overreact as a legislator and start filing all kind of instruments to overcorrect on insurance. But I thought this was pretty common sense. It was fair, it was reasonable, and it died quickly. There was offers from some legislators to provide an amendment to keep the bill alive, and I just thought it was disingenuous of us as a body to move an instrument that wouldn't even help. So why go through the process if it's not going to help? We were present. We had jurors and staff there that day, so I appreciate you being there on behalf of your residents and homeowners. I think we had some traction. We had some progress on some of those claims after that day in committee. But my closing statement that day still holds true. We can bus people to Baton Rouge every day. And the Liga people will sit there and, oh, well, we're going to get your information. We're going to work on your claim. And I said, well, what about the other 1,000 claims that are still sitting out there that they're at work, that they don't know to come here? Basically, we have to have a charter bus bring everybody for you to process their claims, which is what you should be doing anyway. It didn't work out to get the law changed. I think many of those claims have been paid, but it was just a little disappointing to see that we couldn't get relief for our people. And so I think what we need to do is start paying very close attention to statewide elections. Those people are elected. The insurance commissioner is elected. I think you need to voice your concerns and your displeasure on behalf of the residents of this parish that we couldn't get anywhere closer. Sure, there were some insurance reform measures that made it through. I think it was difficult to support some of those. If the insurance company is coming out and saying, oh, we're for this, for this, for this, it's probably a good indication of how much it's actually going to do for the people. So that was one bill that I thought was very important for us to at least attempt to get some progress. Maybe we came up a little short. I don't think that's going to go away. I think our brothers and sisters that went through Ida a year after Laura and Delta, they're going to be in the same position we were this year, next year. And that was my only point. Let's fix it now before another hurricane season and before our brothers and sisters further to the east of us have to
And
go
the insurance commissioner hasn't helped any at all.
That is.
I said it. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
That's a fact.
Yes, sir. So I think that issue won't go away, but we're going to continue to work on that. A couple of other bills that I carried. We have a property transfer in Johnson Bayou. We're going to have the rebuild of the water tower. Ms. Morrison is here. Stayed in contact the entire session. About every 30 minutes, I received correspondence to make sure I was doing what I needed to do. It worked. It worked, Rhonda. So that bill made it through the process. The governor has signed it. And it's basically to transfer where the DOTD maintenance barn was to the Waterworks District to kind of get ease of access, not have to deal with 60 different interests in the property. Basically, a kind of a reconstruction bill to help streamline things in that area, and it made it through the process without opposition. I did carry the CPRA's fiscal year 23 annual plan. That was the largest budget for coastal construction in the history of the state, and to have someone from the Chenier Plain and Cameron carry that piece of legislation, I was very proud of that. We have North Louisiana support for this area, especially when it comes to coastal. We did have one change on the Oyster Task Force. There was a bill filed on behalf of fishermen in the southeastern part of the state to change the makeup of the Oyster Task Force. As you know, we have the Calcasieu Lake Oyster Task Force. We've had trouble getting quorums, and Mary has done a good job in the past of trying to work through that, even before her, Daryl, to try to get a quorum and make motions. The law requires you, the jury, to appoint members of the Calcasieu Oyster Task Force. Then it requires the Calcasieu Oyster Task Force to nominate folks to the state Oyster Task Force. Well, all of my amendments said, which caused a little bit of consternation on the southeastern part of the state, was that the police jury would nominate and appoint members of the state Oyster Task Force. All we're doing is cutting out one layer of bureaucracy that has been inactive for some time. And there were some folks that did not like that. And I think it was a dilution of their vote on the current board, because we haven't had representation on that board in a while. And I didn't really understand the opposition, because we have quite a few different issues from Calcasieu Lake's oyster harvest versus the farming harvest that they have and the permits in the southeast side. So we should have someone from Cameron. You ought to be, the jury and staff ought to be getting some correspondence on requesting a nomination and an appointment for the state Oyster Task Force. The Water Sector Commission, as you may know, there was $15 million appropriated to consolidate 3 districts. That was 100% state funded, 100% grant money. There will be a second round of the Water Sector Commission applications that will open on July 15th, and they will close August 31st.
Everybody turn your phones down.
Any PDAs or mobile devices, if you could put those on silent for the remainder of the presentation,
That's what we were told.
that'd be greatly appreciated, Mr. Chairman. Now I forgot where I was. I get extra 5 minutes, Mayor.
No, you don't.
Yeah.
I'm gonna start my timer over.
Where was I? Water sector. Okay, so July 15th, a new round of will open. And so I should be getting guidance to staff to disseminate to all the waterworks districts. I think we had a couple other districts that submitted last time that maybe didn't score as well as the consolidation. So there'll be opportunities. That's $450 million that has been allocated out of federal grant money, on top of the $300 million that we previously awarded. So Cameron, I think, should be pretty excited that out of the $300 million, $25 million was set aside. So out of $275 million, $15 million was.
How you take the battery out of it?
Now give me another 5 minutes. The $15 million out of $275, that's pretty good for us to pull off. I think that we should all be collectively pretty proud of getting that through the process. We did have some House concurrent resolutions on energy policy, urge and request and directing our federal delegation. What we've talked about in this parish for quite some time is unfortunately coming to fruition. When we looked at exporting, first importing of natural gas, then the exporting of natural gas after the fracking and the shale plays, what we've seen is we've gone from energy independence to dependence, and it's interacting with the entire geopolitical realm. And so for us, as a legislature, what we've tried to do is make people realize, you're going to be paying $6, $7 a gallon gas. It's coming. The price of a barrel of oil isn't projected to go down until late next year, mid to late next year, if then. But we have an abundance of those resources here. And we're not allowed to produce them, and we're not allowed to transport them. And so we as a legislature took the position, very seldom will you find a place on this globe that produces these resources as responsibly and as heavily regulated as what you have here in the United States. We even saw some efforts of importing Venezuelan oil at the same time when we're not producing our own here, or restricting what is allowed to be produced here. And so we took some, I think, positions that would be very like-minded with what positions you have taken in the past and what you would support. We did approve a $1,500 pay raise for teachers and $750 for support staff. We realize that's not enough to get us to the southern average, but I think it's creeping us ever so closely to that point. Now, this is just state funds. The locals can still put what they need to put on top of that. But in the 3 years I've been there, we've had $3,300 in pay raises in salaries for teachers over those 3 years. So trying to make some progress with that. Those are the highlights of the bills that I wanted to address. If there's any questions on specific bills that you have, I'll entertain that now, and then we can get into the project discussion.
Not so much a bill, but what about the ferry?
Okay. So we can go into capital outlay, and we'll start with the ferry. The Cameron Ferry number 2, you should have seen, they have been operating it here lately, not in full service. There were electrical component issues that they had to bring the vendor back and rework basically the whole damn thing. Okay. And so staff, I think they ran it for either 6 to 8 hours without interruption. So that was a good step in the right direction. They still have Coast Guard inspections, and they still have some trainings that were, that were delayed because of COVID and actually keeping the standby ferry in operation. They didn't want to pull staff from the standby ferry to train them on number 2. So at this point, I think they're back to full strength. The department wouldn't give me a timeline on when Cameron Ferry number 2 would be back in service. But the fact of the matter is, requests have been made to the Coast Guard for inspections this month in July. And they are, having trial runs, we can say, for extended periods of time. So I think what we can say with some certainty is we are getting closer. I think we've made a good deal of progress there on Cameron Ferry number 2. On the new ferry, we had, at the beginning of session, $12 million in capital outlay in priority 1 to go to be supplemental to the $20 million that we fought to get back in 2019. So that $32 million, the department felt pretty confident that would get us 2 new ferries. 1 standby, 1 working, not necessarily like in tandem like Galveston. Through amendments, through the process, we were cut down to $2 million. And so.
From 32 to 2?
12 to 2.
12.
The 20 is still there. The 20 was appropriated in statute. That's never been touched. The capital outlay bill for this session went from 12 million to 2 million. So Senator Abraham and I had to work very diligently with Senator Allen, the chairman of Revenue and Fisc on the Senate side, Senate President Paige Cortez, and Chairman McMath of the Transportation Committee to get $3 million put back in. So we have $5.2 million in priority 1, which will be immediately available upon bond commission vote. And we have another $17 million in priority 5 that we can draw down if the need arises. So today, bids were let for the bid package, for the entire scope of work, which today includes 2 ferries. Bids were due initially June 6th, I believe. Those were pushed back to July 13th, which has subsequently been pushed back to August 10th. And the reason for that is, you may recall, the $20 million from 2019, that was out of the BP economic damages settlement money. That was not state money that we appropriated. So as you know, with some of the bonding issues that we have, the timing never works out. It's not like you got cash on hand. So that $20 million, basically what the department did was they expedited that process to have access to that money. We weren't supposed to get the cash off that $20 million until 2024, 2025. Through your support, the staff support, and your legislative delegation support, DOTD went to the federal government and received a TIFIA loan. The TIFIA loan process is what is delaying us at this point. Plans and specs done, bid packets done, bids are out, people are they're requesting the plans and specs, they're drafting their bids. We have to close on that $20 million TIFIA loan and go to bond commission, which should happen later this month of July, for the $5 million. The TIFIA loan gets the project started. There is no holdup in delaying or delay of the award once the TIFIA loan closes. So, we've waited for quite some time. I think we've tried just about everything we possibly could to expedite that project. And I know it's not the first time I've said it, but it feels like we're pretty dang close to being where we need to be on the new ferry project. Any questions on that?
Yeah, I got a question. Hey, hold on. I want you to make a request to DOTD that they go ahead now and start training the pilots for them new ones, so we don't have to wait a year to get them in service.
They were experiencing staffing issues really and truly no different than any other entity. It was pretty much across the board. But point taken, and we'll certainly convey that to Mr. Duberville, the district office, and Mr. Sibley in Baton Rouge. Yes,
Right, I don't know what the salaries are, if that's the issue of getting captains want to come down here and run these ferries. if you can find some out, I don't know what we can do, or, I mean, with these LNG companies, with CP2 getting ready to hopefully be beginning before long. You got Commonwealth across the river. I don't know what else may go on, you know. If we could up their monies or try to do some kind of, maybe, I don't know.
I think we had captains, they just wasn't qualified to run the new controls on the ferry.
And hell, a lot of times when I was working at Chenier, they run that thing, they beat that thing against that wall now. I don't know, they wasn't like them old captains. Take their time not to tear crap up, and every time you turn around, it was tearing something up and it bears down. So I don't know if it's just not good qualified captains or way to get somebody that takes pride in it and want to come down here. Because I remember the day when them old men, they had their suits on, their caps on, and it looked like you was getting on a boat, you know, a nice facility. But
And I do think that staff has tried their hardest to keep something running to allow access across that channel. But I'll definitely bring back the staffing issue, the certification issue, and the pay, just to see what the department
can be
will
done.
respond, or just see
What is the problem?
what their response is. Correct.
Yeah, because we could have Daniel Laverne on there.
Can't even do where he's at now.
Pontoon bridge.
Okay. I'm surprised you asked that, Mr. Butch.
Third time this week.
No, that's right, that's right. So, it's no secret that we've had some delays. I think when you go back and look from the February timeframe, what transpired there. First of all, I'll just stipulate a few of the facts, okay? And one of the facts is it's an aged piece of infrastructure, and it was hit by Laura and Delta Direct. And so there was some damage there already, outside of the unprepared for delays. I think that this jury and your staff worked very well with me on providing access in the interim. Because if you recall, there was one point in time where the Coast Guard was shutting down any operation. Their suggestion to DOTD was shut it down, period, until it was fixed. And through your leadership and your staff's leadership, we worked with the federal delegation to at least have that 4 hours openings in the morning and in the afternoon. So I did want to get that on the record that at one point there would have been no access. But through your request, your support, and the support of our federal delegation, we worked with DOTD. DOTD was supportive of that from day one. We had to get it through the Coast Guard to make sure we were in good position. I've been told that here lately things have been somewhat okay. I hate to say that out loud. Mr. Pierce was in here, and he keeps me posted on how things are going out there. The fact of the matter is this. It's an aging pontoon bridge. I think it's one of the last in the area.
It was the very last built in the state.
There you go. The last one put into commission, let's say. And if you go back and look at the state highway priority program from 2018, 2019, which was when I got elected in February of 19. The Grand Lake Pontoon Bridge was in here for feasibility and scoping and funded zero to identify issues with the pontoon bridge. Prior to the pontoon bridge being shut down for extended a period of time, this was put through in November of last year, when I sit down with you and your staff to go over priorities for the parish. We collectively submit those to DOTD for inclusion in their annual plan. So I am pleased to say that in a short 2 years' time, this was our list 4 years ago, and that's pretty big font. This was our list 3 years ago, and that's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 projects with a couple zeros in there. This is the list this year: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 projects. So we're making progress as a whole. But to answer your question, Mr. Butch, I wasn't trying to go off on a tangent there. There's $10 million included in this plan to move through design and scoping to understand what needs to be done there. And so that money is already in the plan. So those funds are available. We've moved to the point where now there's going to be some action going on design-wise. Typically, that's a 2 to 3 year process, what we've seen in the past, just on overlays for the most part, to get from feasibility through design to construction, okay? You know, I think the department has some plans and specs and some concepts on the books from years prior when a fixed span bridge was recommended to be constructed from around, I think it was north of Boone's back then. You may know better than me, Mr. Butch, but in that general vicinity, a fixed span bridge to be constructed to the island from Gulf Highway, whatever that orientation was. And I think there was some opposition to that. And so the department has a starting point for a fixed span bridge, but we also have a say now. Times have changed, circumstances have changed. We've had 4 direct hit hurricanes, and so I think re-engaging on what that repair looks like long term, now is the time to do that. Now is the time we've clearly gotten traction from one plan to the next on that specific project. Now it's time to fully engage and kind of guide that discussion along as to where we want to be at the end of the discussion. I certainly appreciate everyone's patience going through that process. I got plenty of calls on that.
Yeah, I know, I did.
I never thought that I would get calls more than the ferry, but that happened, you know. And truth be known, we have more people out there now.
Yeah.
Than
But
we
you
did
know, the
than we
last
did
few
previously.
days, they've had caution lights flashing. And the bridge was all lopsided, water in some of the chambers and everything. And when it's like that, it's more susceptible to break whenever heavy loads go over it. And if they would at least try to pump it out and level it out, that would help out a lot.
Okay.
That's it.
Any other DOTD questions? I think Highway 82 is now in the plan from the Vermilion Parish line to the Mermentau River Bridge.
Overlay?
Overlay,
Oh, good.
complete overlay. And that is for a total of $7.3 million. And they're currently in design development, so they're
You
in.
can overlay that for 7.3 million?
It's a preservation.
Long ways.
That's currently what's in there today.
Yeah. Is that a chip sealing or is that an overlay?
I think they're gonna mill and then come back and.
Oh, use the same stuff, just retort.
The base is better there than it is in some other places, is what
Yeah,
I
that's
was,
a
is what I
ridge,
was
that's a
told.
shell ridge.
Correct.
Yeah.
Also, the Superior Canal Bridge is in design development. That's $11 million for a replacement of that. You know, we've had trouble getting people weight load permits to get on to Grand Chenier with equipment.
Right.
Or even construction materials for Rockefeller and for the homeowners. I mean, so our local contractors reach out frequently to get assistance in moving permitted loads through the process. That's DOTD issues. We were fortunate enough to get $10 million in cash for the Southwest Coastal Study. That is marsh creation, rock breakwaters, and/or home elevations, which, a lot of those homes that qualified are now gone. So we've worked very diligently with Senator Cassidy's office and Congressman Higgins and Senator Kennedy to identify other restoration projects to use some of that money. There were some awards of hundreds of millions of dollars for Southwest Coastal. This is the state match that's required. We had another $8 million for breakwaters for Cameron Parish. That was through capital outlay process. That funding is in surplus cash from last year, and so that will be readily available. I think it hasn't been determined yet wherever CARE is at. That specific location, I think there was permits in place to first finish and try to get to Beach Prong over there, closer to Rockefeller. That thing's been opening up for many years. And so that was identified as an area. You still have Rutherford Beach with a section that needs to be done. Little Florida has a section that the residents have been reaching out for 6-7 years now. And so at the end of the day, that's $18 million in coastal money in cash this fiscal year that's coming to Cameron. That total allocation was $101 million, and we got $18 million out of it. So
it's gotta be used on coastal restoration?
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thunder. Done?
We have another round of funding for the North Cameron EOC. There was $125,000 in cash. That should get you close to finishing up design. We had another $150,000, I believe, last year, if I remember right. Ms. Homerton may know different. But that amount should get you to about $300,000 in cash for the design of that facility. And there's another $1.9 million in Priority 5 that if you get through design, we can move that up next fiscal year, in the 22-23 fiscal year. Marshall Street pumps, that was a new project submittal through capital outlay this year. And we got $125,000 in cash to get that project started. I know we got a long way to go. That's a significant project. I think there's been quite a bit of support from state agencies for that project. The CPRA is well aware of the pumps that they lent us for Laura and Delta. DOTD is well aware of the issues here on the road, on Marshall Street. And so I think we'll get some pretty good support for that moving forward, but it was important to get it in the bill this year, even if it was only $125,000, to get the discussion started, get you to permitting, and then once you get a shovel-ready project, then we'll be ready to rock and roll. One that we came up short on that I do want to acknowledge, South Cameron Memorial had a request to us for some equipment. I think it was around $4 million, and some of that's going to be insurance, some of that's FEMA. But the request went into capital outlay, and when the ferry was cut $7 million, that kind of ran into our leverage for the hospital. The hospital was going to be Senator Abraham's #1 priority for our area to get some funding to them so they can start planning to revamp their facility, which is critically needed down here. We had to shift our priorities. We were too close to be in bids for the ferries. Now that we basically had to balance out the need for the ferry and the need for the hospital all at the same time. And so we made the call collectively to say, look, we got to get the ferries taken care of. We can't come this close and then pull the bids while they're under bid. And so we're going to try to buy us a little time. We did get $4.7 million put into the bill. So next year we can come back and try to identify some funds, to help. That'll give them more time to work through insurance. I think Mr. DuPont was here. But we had constant contact with Braden and Ms. Trahan throughout the initial submittal process, all the way through capital outlay. We had some other opportunities that we had earmarked for this. If you recall, last year, $30 million was appropriated to Southwest Louisiana for hurricane recovery. We thought there would be another round of funding to do some of that. We could have put $400,000 or $500,000 towards the hospital in cash to get that started. That was not appropriated. There was an issue the last few days of session. So we missed out on a couple of opportunities, but we know it's a priority for the parish moving forward. Other than that, we've worked with your staff on the request that went to the federal government for an appropriation. I think it was $3 million for breakwaters through the Energy and Infrastructure Appropriations Committee. We received word last week that Colonel Murphy in the New Orleans district needed to respond. I had submitted a letter of support as well as the police jury for the application. So we had staff reach out to Colonel Murphy to make sure that DC was well aware of the support here. We made it very clear that there was local support for this project, and not only were we asking for money, but the parish in the past, when federal money was available, they put their money where their mouth is. The parish conducted the planning assistance to the state study, which was completed in 2017-18. You self-funded that. The Go Mesa money that was bonded out, the first parish or county in the United States of America to bond out their Go Mesa money, you put that money on breakwaters. So we reiterated to them, the CDBG money from Rita and Ike, that last $4 million went on breakwaters, another $8 million appropriation this year. So clearly the support was there from a parish perspective and a CPRA state perspective and a federal perspective. So we're trying to move that forward. We're going to remain engaged with staff. You have a lot of infrastructure money that people have been touting that's out there. Some of that will be competitively awarded. Even if you do simple math, it looks like the state could get around $2 million in those funds, where Baton Rouge is going to make quite a few of those determinations on where that money goes. So we have to stay in constant contact on each one of these programs. One of them's for all system bridges. One of them's for water and sewer. One of them is for coastal resiliency, which drainage and shoreline protection would all qualify. Those projects are still in the works, but we got to be ready, which I think is why it's important that the seed money that we're getting now to fund the design to get to permitting is going to help us be in a better position to compete for the discretionary funds coming from DC and Baton Rouge. I think that's all I have, project-wise.
You got extra 10 minutes since you was interrupted by phone.
No, the heck he does.
That is.
No, he don't.
Thank you,
Mr.
Mr.
Chairman.
Dupont, for reminding me of that.
We're not
Mr.
starting the
Chairman.
clock over.
In that case, you want me to review some of the staff's evaluations or something? Y'all want to have some?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, ma'am, yes, sir.
might I have, I'd like to thank Ryan for his efforts to, with his bill to hold the insurance companies accountable. It was very good to see that we have elected officials that remember they work for the people and they feel the people's pain. I was very disappointed in seeing how government takes up for government bureaucracy. They let us down. I actually pushed a fight. I'm still getting calls from people that these insurance companies are still going belly up. 2 years after the fact, people have already renewed their insurance premiums and are getting notified that they have no insurance. And they have no idea how to take care of that. So I've been forwarding them the report from that meeting that you had on your bill to let them know how LIGA's been doing, okay? I think that this problem is not going to go away. Does LIGA, when an insurance company goes belly up, do they get a list of all the people who no longer have insurance, and do they reach out to those people?
Yes and no. They're provided a list of claimants from the private insurer. They do not have full-time staff outside of 5 or 6 people full-time. But what they testified that day is that they've revved up consultant-wise to 400 people.
Yeah.
Okay.
400.
That are on board now. How much they reach out? I didn't know what LIGA was until December, and I'm a rep. I don't mind telling you. I mean, that's just a fact. I can't hide that.
I don't know
what
if
LIGA was.
I don't know if they know.
So the public, I would think, most certainly does not know. We barely knew what Citizens was, to be honest with you. And in fact, my Citizens policy was transferred to something island in Florida, which ended up being one of the companies that did go bankrupt. But again, we weren't allowed the option to move from Citizens to a third-party private insurer. That was involuntary. You know who made that decision? Baton Rouge. So the commissioner can bundle, it's called bundling, some of these policies, and then they put it out on the market, which they touted as cost savings in your premium. Absolutely. It is a premium savings. But if the public were aware that it would be harder to get paid on their claim when Citizens paid 93% of their claims by November, and it's a fact. By November 31st of 2020, 93% of the Citizens' claims were paid for Laura and Delta. The ones that were involuntarily moved to other insurers, fly-by-night insurers from out of state, where you can't call anybody, you didn't even know it was happening, but you got a $600 savings in your premium. So you were probably satisfied with that without even understanding the total ramifications. There was a bill, and I don't know if they killed that bill either, I'm gonna have to go back and look, that forced a voluntary move, a verification from the homeowner to move from Citizens to one of the bundled companies.
That's where it ought to be. You're paying citizens, you're not paying other people.
When have you ever seen government work better than the private sector? But in this case, Citizens outperformed what the commissioner and the department did with some of these other guys.
Anyway, keep up the fight, remember the people, and remember even Ali lost once in a while.
That's right.
And LIGA, nonprofit organization, nonprofit, okay, now has 400 employees. All right? And you'd been, I gotta give him his kudos, because you'd been proud of him, because he stood up there and he let them know real quick how he stood, and he did a great job. I'm gonna tell you
In
that
spite of
for
the
sure.
threats from them, but it's.
Huh? His lips were shaking, I'm telling you, he was mad, so. All right, Mr., what's your name again? Orion?
El Jefe.
All right, thank you a lot.
Thank y'all.
you, Ron.
Appreciate you. Okay, we need to review, and I have a first question on item number 11. Authority to get fair market value on Crab Lady Landing property located in Big Lake. What's happening with that?
Are we leasing a boat launch?
So the guy that came in here a month or so ago that wanted to lease the property, we were informed by our DA's office that it has to go to public bid
Okay,
for lease.
okay,
Oh,
so,
that whoever might want to bid on it.
Yeah,
to lease it.
Anybody can bid on it, yeah.
okay. So our decision to allow him, Mr. DA, you say could you,
We've drafted the bid proposal in such a fashion that it narrows the objective of the lease to wholesale seafood, receiving of that wholesale and distribution, as well as providing retail bait. So we've narrowed the lease to, we want to, somebody to lease the property for that purpose. It narrows, it creates fewer people may be interested in leasing it, and narrows, who potentially may submit a bid.
okay,
So,
okay.
done our best.
Gentlemen, does that answer your question?
Oh, hey, guy.
Yeah, they got a lot of work that needs to be done to that property. Like all the roads is bad, the boat landing is bad. I don't know if anybody's ever been over there.
That really doesn't have any, that doesn't have any.
The other thing that's on the bid proposal is we do not guarantee access. Because there are some problems with access, but that particular individual who came was willing to take on that risk. And, so there are risks involved because we can't guarantee access.
Right.
And there are limitations, and there are infrastructure issues, which again, that individual is willing to take on the risk and put in the effort and the money and investment, so.
Does that answer your question, sir?
Yeah.
All right.
Number 12, on Mark Daigle's variance, he can open up and run his mechanic shop, am I right? Okay. I mean, he just wanted to get a bathroom, is all he's wanting to do.
No, I'll let Miles handle it, but
Miles?
it's per code.
No, it's a business, so, is what he's wanting to run as a business, okay? A mechanic shop.
Okay.
Change tires and everything else. It's a business. It's not an accessory structure to the trailer or the home or anything that's there. It has to meet elevations.
But the
Okay.
bathroom.
The bathroom has to meet elevations too, per code.
The business
It's
has
required
be-
to have a restroom.
It's
The
required.
business has to be elevated?
Yes,
For him to run the mechanic shop, has to be elevated.
correct.
Is that a shop that was previously there?
Yes, there's this,
Yeah, put it there.
he is it's permitted as an ag structure right now, 30 by 30.
I thought only the business portion that was continuously occupied or for the office, for the restrooms, had to be elevated, and that there could be accessory buildings to that weren't elevated, because it doesn't make sense to
It's not
elevate
an
a tire
accessory
shop.
structure, though. Carrie, I was out, and Carrie did talk to FEMA Region 6, and that's, I'm just repeating what was said from them. We can't treat it as an accessory structure, okay? It's a business, just like any other business. Even though it's trying to do a mechanic shop on the ground, the variance for functionally dependent use is only good for on the water, for offloading of cargo vessels and fisheries. So his is treating it, it's a business. He's gonna have, talks about offices in there, he talks about restrooms in there.
Well, it's
It's
sort of
gonna be
like-
heated and cooled.
Yeah, but it's sort of like having a grocery store with gas pumps. You don't elevate the gas pumps, I mean.
Well, this
it
ain't
wouldn't
gas
make any
pumps.
sense to. No, but you understand where I'm coming from with that. There are certain portions that are gonna be hard to make elevation. I don't have a problem with the office, bathrooms, everything being elevated. Everybody else has to meet code. But the tire shop itself, it doesn't make sense to try to elevate that.
He's asking for a variance, and we had this discussion sometime, you have the authority, as long as we're not having a pattern of decisions that are contrary to the intent and purpose of your floodplain management ordinance and elevation requirements, to grant those variants. I've had some discussion with your staff about this idea of a new business, where you have someone saying, I want to start a business. And so the reliability and the authenticity of that suggestion that they are in fact going to do a business is something that you have to decide. As opposed to somebody that has historically had a business, a hurricane wiped it out, and they're going back to rebuild, such as Canning's Grocery. In this case, it's a new business. We've talked about ideas, what has he invested? Has he, bought the hydraulic elevation type equipment? What has he done? And I think some of the things that he's commented about what he has planned, some of you have had conversations with people that those plans are not in fact accurate. Who's going to work for him, for instance. So you have to judge, it's your job to judge whether this is a viable, real project, or is this just a ruse or a disguise or something other that he just wants to get a bathroom in his ag building. I can't make that decision. I can't tell you. But asking for business plans, asking for investments, what have you spent towards your business? What experience do you have in this business, so forth and so on, are reasonable questions and facts to consider and information to gather before you make that decision, if you're inclined to even consider it. But it's a difficult, something we again had this conversation with the staff about what are the parameters, what are the guidelines, what do we need to see. And it may be different for each business, but in this case, what investments, what's your business plan, what investments have you made, what experience, what certifications do you have as a mechanic, so forth and so on. I don't know the answers, but I think those are reasonable questions to ask if you're inclined to consider.
My question is, if we do, say we grant him a variance and he decides, well, I got my variance, I'm not opening up that shop, I'm just gonna be a born, can we take the variance back?
I would say that if you were inclined to consider, then yes, we would have to work with the applicant to say, look, we will give you a conditional variance.
Ending, yeah, something.
And again, those conditions would be okay at the end, say 12 months, and we want to see, what are your, what you're invoicing, how many clients have you had, how many customers have you had, how many tires have you changed, have some parameter. If he's got one car a month, well, that's probably not a viable business. You can't really run a business. So again, I don't know what the threshold is, but it is, again, something that we can, in my mind, I don't know if we've talked about it with staff, is, okay, if you did give a conditional variance, what would be the parameters? What would you want to see at the end of 12 months to allow that to become permanent? Again,
Can we do that? I think if we would do something like that, say, look, hey, do you have your tire machine? Do you have your hydraulic lift rack? You're gonna be changing oil, fixing flats, that for sure it's gonna be.
I think those are good questions initially, to ask, what are your investments, what's your business plan, what are your certifications, so forth and so on. Because any business, look, and we've had the conversation, we know who the applicant is. I've said, take the name out of the equation. This is a application for a mechanic shop. If it were anything else, and not every application for every business you would have the same considerations. But in this case, we've talked about some of the things you'd look for, and I think those are reasonable to ask the applicant before you consider the variance. What have you invested? What are your certifications? What's your business plan? So forth and so on, and you make an informed decision.
Yeah, I mean, because we can go out of control with variances by people just saying, hey, I'm gonna open up this and get them a variance, but we ain't got nothing. Well, we decided not to do it.
You're right.
I mean,
Somebody has an ag or accessory building, and they say, hey, I want to open up a restaurant, I need a kitchen.
Yeah.
You give them variance, they build a kitchen, next thing you know, they're just feeding their family and having parties. Again, that's the concern, and a reasonable concern when you don't have any history. When you have a business that doesn't have any history and it's new, you have to
Can you
take it.
issue a variance upon, proof of the job, I mean, the business?
Well, that's what I was saying, you want
That's
some
what I'm
evidence
saying,
that he's
yeah.
investing in a business.
So you can issue the variance upon, and the variance is good, dependent on the proof of the business.
Well, I think before, in this case, again,
So-
being a
so
new
before.
business, before you would consider granting, or part of the consideration, and you may have to table it if you're supposed to make a decision this afternoon, was
Yeah.
to ask for the types of things that I've just mentioned. Are you a certified mechanic? Have you, what is your background? What is your business plan? What investments have you made? What equipment do you have? And if you can't provide any of that, then you have to, then that becomes suspicious.
Right.
But yet, if he comes with viable, reasonable information, then that, again, is just information. The more information, the better for you to make a decision on a variance with a new business. Again, it emphasizes this is a new business, so you have to ask more questions.
So I got one thing on, and I don't know if it's Sonny's district or your district. Don't you have the feed store that Curry's had over there, and they're working out of a little building
They're waiting on a secession. They're waiting on a secession to.
But that's
I don't know what the elevation is over there.
That's a historical business. It's a little bit different than a new business.
And you do have history.
No, that's what I'm
You
saying.
have a lot of
We have
history.
there, so we could, if they needed a variance, we could issue them a variance.
But my point being
There you
is
go.
that the type of business it is, we've already talked about, we can't even make public restrooms without putting them in the air. We're fighting that right now. So he gets no variance to do that. If he wants to work on a car, you can't elevate the car. I mean, you'd have to build a mountain to get the car up there. My point being is the restroom, the paperwork portion of it, the offices have to be elevated. I mean, that's the standard, right? Am I correct in that?
The whole structure needs to be elevated.
Technically, the whole structure, but you'd have to grant a variance for
Well,
the
that's what I'm
mechanic
saying.
shop.
And we fought FEMA with that to get ag building acceptance. We had to give a reason. We wasn't gonna pack the feed up and down the stairs or have the horses upstairs, It makes sense to have it downstairs, so they did. I understand. Certain businesses, when it comes to like tire shops, I mean, I don't see how we could even expect them to elevate.
Well, that's why you don't have none in the floodplain.
What's the elevation requirement there?
13 foot.
Yeah, it's not feasible, I mean, we all agree it's not feasible to elevate a mechanic shop 13 feet, or feasible from an economic standpoint. That's why he's asking for the variance, I'm assuming. But again, so for instance, 20 years ago, we had a hurricane, road winds, corner gas station had come to you and said, we want to open back up, but we need a variance. Well, you had history there. They'd been there forever. So the reliability that they are in fact opening a gas station would have been, you would have been confident that in fact they're going to use this variance for a gas station, not turn it into a bar or something else, or just something for themselves, but now that they had the variance. Again, with a new business, you don't have that assurance, so.
Well, I think we ought to talk with Mr. Daigle and get verification. So
What is the natural ground elevation there?
It's probably
Roughly-
around
roughly.
3.5, 4 foot right there.
3.5, 4 feet?
Yeah, we don't have, he never supplied us an elevation certificate. You do?
Yeah, it's about 3 feet.
3 foot, I was close. But we don't have wind loads on the building, we don't have fire marshal approval, he hasn't worked towards none of that.
And I think the fire marshal approval could be a pretty big indication of his commitment to the business. Right now, he doesn't have fire marshal approval, and so if maybe he would come back with his business plan, like his occupancy, occupational license, and his fire marshal approval of his business, then there would be more to review to help guide your decision.
Maybe we need to contact him and tell him that.
I'll email him with all the questions that Tom alluded to and get it in writing. Again, I asked him to be here today, but, so I'll do that and bring it to y'all next meeting.
Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else with anything?
Yep.
I have one question. Wendy, what
Sir.
was you explaining to me this morning?
Number 19.
Just give us a short,
Yep, I've talked to a few of you already about it, but I want us to be proactive this year for storm season. We had a lot of issues with our remediation companies that came in and cleaned our buildings afterwards, like they go in and take out the mud, suck out the water, take out the drywall, all that kind of stuff. There was a lot of things in our policies they did things that were not covered. I want you guys to give me permission to put out the request for proposals for remediation companies so that we are able to negotiate a contract, Tom and these companies, to match everything. Everything is prepared up front, all the rates, what they're allowed to do, so that we get everything paid for. We're not missing any funding, so the insurance will take care of it all, and all of that's covered up front. That way, if we get hit by a storm or we even have a fire, this stuff is covered immediately. We make a phone call, they come in, they set up, they assess the damage, they give us a written proposal, a contract's already in place with their rates and all of that, and we're able to move forward with companies that we know are reputable, they have references, they're giving us all the documentation up front.
okay.
That's what it's for.
Anything to move things along faster, because it
Correct.
takes way too long to
Yeah,
process.
and we had a lot of, there was a very large company that was working in multiple buildings, and there was no way to keep track or be on top of that. You know, we weren't but down here, and so some of the guidance that should have been there, that we weren't able to do, you know, and those companies come in. So I just want us to be proactive and have that done ahead of time so that we get what's best for us, not what's best for them. And we're also not fighting them for invoices or documentation or disposal tickets. It's just been a nightmare. So I'd really like to do this ahead of time so that we're prepared.
Okay. All right, thank you. Anything else, Katie?
Looks like you guys are ready to go.
I have
Anybody
one
else?
thing, Mr. President. I have one thing.
Okay.
We were notified yesterday that Mr. Joe Duval resigned from the Calcam Hospital Board. We want to do an add-on to accept his resignation and appoint Ms. Carol Fountain in his place for the remainder of the year.
Bobby?
Okay? Everybody's agreeing with that?
Okay.
Anything else? Okay, we're gonna complete this meeting. This meeting is adjourned.